to another season of Sync Riff, season 4, and I have a special guest joining us today, Paulina Márquez from Barcelona. Welcome, Paulina. How's it going?
It's going very well. Thank you very much.
Yes, no, so good to catch up, and we're gonna have a great chat in the next hour about your work. You're a seasoned music supervisor from Mexico with over 20 years of experience across film and television. I know you're now based in Barcelona and you work on Mexican, Spanish, and British productions for Netflix, Amazon, and Apple. And your credits, I'm just going to read a few. I'll post a link to your website. Amazing work. Everything from Elite, The Burning Body, Hurricane Season. And of course, we're going to talk about The Night Manager Season 2, which is airing now. Yes, on Amazon Prime.
I'll watch it.
Yes, so good, so good. And also just want to mention for our listeners, Paulina is a member of the UK and European Guild of Music Supervisors. And would love, Paulina, there's so much we can speak about, but I think before we jump into The Night Manager, you're multifaceted, not only music supervisor, but what was great. Tell me about, you also do some editing work and how that really ties in when you work with showrunners. When did that come about?
Well, I actually started working. So before I worked as a music supervisor, I worked at a music studio in Mexico called MCO Studios. So basically, they do everything related to original music, music clearance, sound design, everything for advertising for films. And I worked there for over almost 5 years. And I was always surrounded by composers and by producers. And I worked along, the score composers, for example, a lot. And I got used to work watching how the song worked with the image, and actually not only proposing, not only what song could work with the image, but actually how that song should be edited to work with the image. So normally music supervisors, in general, what they do is to propose the songs. But I can't seem to propose a song without actually working on how it should be placed and how it should be worked with. So every time that I send a proposal for a scene, I send a folder with the MP3 files. So any song that is selected can be integrated in the mix. But I also send the proposals for the editing. Yeah, that's how I got used to work, since I started. So
that you're first, because I've interviewed 50 plus music supervisors, and not one of, unless they didn't tell me, but that is really fascinating, because I think, Paulina, it's showrunners must love your work and working with you, because that is a huge component to really looking at a piece of music and ensuring that the music can bend to picture. That is a great segue, because, and I'm going to share on screen, and it's so iconic, but would love to talk about with the Night Manager Season 2, how early were you brought on in working with the showrunner? Because I know the film was filmed in the UK, Spain, and also Colombia. So you have such lavish and rich locations. So tell me more about that process working with the showrunner, and what's your process when you get the script and start to think about the music?
So this specific series was a bit different, because normally when I get invited to a project, I start in a very early stage. So normally I start working in the preparation of the project, or the pre-production of the project at least. I start working on a breakdown with the scripts, and I work all the creative proposal way before. I start having these conversations not only with the showrunners, but with the director, and start coming up with a musical identity, a concept from which we can work. But this project was actually very different, because I started much later in the process. So it took a while. This was a co-production. Indeed, there were many production companies involved. I had previously worked with the post-production company in various projects in Spain. So they proposed me to do the music supervision, and it took a while to actually land the project and to start working on the project. So when I started working on the project, I think there were already, I don't know, maybe a couple of episodes, not with a final cut, but they had already been worked, like in the editing. So they had already a lot of music integrated to the cuts, to those two cuts, the first two cuts. The first thing we did once we landed the project was actually having, a chat with the director and with the showrunner and talking a bit about what, she had in mind. So basically for Georgie, it was very important. She had traveled to Colombia, obviously, to shoot the series. And she was like very inspired and very excited about how alive the city felt and the country felt, with the music and different styles of music like all around. So there wasn't a specific like thing in mind. This is a very score driven project. Like everything that has to do with, a lot of narrative and emotional, like support, it comes from the score. So she
Yes.
really wanted to work with the soundtrack more in a, like creating an environment, like an ambiance. And so we basically got from there. We start from there. I worked on an inspiration playlist, which is something that I do for all the projects that I work in. I had seen the first season and I loved it. So I already knew what the project was about, kind of like the stamp. It's very different when you start working on a fresh project that you have to come up with with a concept, with a style, than working on a project that has already a previous season because you have a base from where to
Yes.
work. So we came from there. That's how it started.
Amazing, amazing. Because let's talk about Paulina because there's some, really diverse sounds, music, everything from vintage Latino orchestras to really reflect the grandeur of the city. And then also the antagonist, Diego Calva plays Teddy dos Santos. And then also there's a blending of reggaeton and cumbia to capture the contemporary Colombian street sounds. So I can imagine, Paulina, you have such from labels to independent artists and publishers, music to pull from. But like you said, you create a playlist to to garner some ideas, and then in the spotting session, is that kind of walk us through because some folks who are catching this podcast may not know the intricacies of the spotting session, working with the editor, and when you put it in a temp track and how those things kind of work.
Well, so where do we start from? So the first couple of episodes, since they were already edited and they already had music, there were not really spotting sessions, which is basically spotting where the music goes. And it can actually change. It can vary from one project to another. I've had projects when the spotting sessions are basically me with myself or me with the director or all along together, like the score composer with me and the director. In this specific project, the first couple of, I think it was basically myself. And we kind of like, I send the songs. I kind of like find the places for the songs. I would send them to the director and the showrunners, and they would agree to it or not. At the first couple of episodes, they already had some music on them. But obviously what happens sometimes is when editors place music, because some editors need music to work with, and they were already, presenting for sure cuts to some of the production companies and the platforms that were involved. The thing is, they would include songs that were not necessarily potential songs for us to clear. Because when we work on a proposal, on a music proposal, we don't only have to think about the style and the concept, we also have to think about the money. And how are we going to actually, organize things in a way that we can actually make things work? So usually what I do, at least, is I kind of like from the start, I already have the skeleton of the project. And I already know which ones are going to be the scenes that I'm going to put like all my eggs in, like these are going to be my big scenes. These other scenes are scenes where I can actually go for something like smaller, and kind of like balance out my budget. So that's basically a little bit of what you do. In this case, the music spotting in the first episodes, it was already spotted. And the other ones, it came from myself. And basically what I was very interested in was like giving the show a pretty cool sound. It's
Mhm,
like
mhm.
when I watched the first season of the show and I watched Jonathan Pine, super sleek and cool and elegant, and everything was so beautiful. I really wanted to give it, that feeling to the music. So I'm a big like yeah, vintage music listener. Like I think my Spotify age was like, I don't know, 80 something. So I really thought like going, for like old Latin orchestras that are amazing would
Yeah.
really work, especially for the part of Medellin, the big city, like all the first part of the show. And then we actually came. So you have like three parts in the show. You have the first episode that happens in the UK, which is completely
Mhm,
different. Then
mhm.
you have 2.5 episodes that happen in Medellin or something like that. And then you have the rest kind of in the jungle. So what actually happened was we divided. So you have the UK, then you have Medellin, you have the Latin orchestras there. Basically, everything with Colombian talent, obviously. You have a couple of Cuban songs there of artists that I really admire and love and sound amazing in the show. But
Mhm.
mainly it's the soundtrack, it's worked with Colombian artists. And then it kind of changes once Teddy Dos Santos and Jonathan Pine go to the jungle. It becomes something a little bit simpler. You go to trio music and to these songs that I don't know. I mean, I'm not from Colombia. I'm Mexican. We do have like a Latin root that joins us,
Mm, mhm.
but it's like the songs you listened all your life, like the songs my mother used to listen to, no?
Yes.
And that's basically how I kind of structured it.
Yes, Paulina, and I'm sharing, and we'll post this up in the playback, but you had shared The Night Manager season 2 synced some of the cuts. Tell me about this first track, uh, Bilur by Rizan. Is it
That was the
Saeed?
one they used for the trailer.
I
So
think.
Bilor, this is a track. The first the first sequence, you have Jonathan Pine in a car. He's in Syria. He's going to check if I, this guy is dead. I forgot his name now.
Sure.
Richard Roper, if
Roper.
he's dead
Yes.
or not. Yeah. So I went once I had this project started. I went straight to. There are two of the biggest like Colombian music labels are called Sonolux and Discos Fuentes. Discos Fuentes is represented in the UK by pop-up music. Pop-up music, they're sync agents. And I know them like pretty well, and I've worked in various projects with them, and they're amazing. And this is one of the tracks that I was explaining a bit earlier. This is one of the tracks in sequences in which you say, okay, this is a sequence for which I need something pretty cool, but I can't allow myself to spend like millions on this. And Pop Up has an amazing. I remember when I met this guy, he sent me like after first trip we did together to a music festival. He sent me a playlist of songs that could appear in a Wes Anderson film. And it was like a whole mix of things, amazing. So obviously I had this and I called Mark and I was like, Mark, I need your help with this. And he sent me some tracks. So that's where that came from.
Such a cool vibe because before this podcast, we were catching up, Paulina, and in the 90s, I worked at EMI North America and with all the electronic scene, but this Bilur track, sort of dark, electronic vibe. It could work, you know, in a club setting, and it had that
Yeah, it's pretty
grit.
cool.
Yeah, so cool. And I love that you have it as the first track on your playlist. And this playlist, for those tuning in, I mean, amazing cuts. Everything, you know, back from my Capitol days, there was a Radiohead track, there was a Roberta Flack track, correct? I think when it transitions to the UK, there's a funeral and
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, Hunting Bears by Radiohead's on this playlist. But I know it's a loaded question, Paulina, but is there any particular episode or use that you really are really proud about? Not only how it worked on screen, but a tip of the hat to you as a music supervisor with Clarence. You know, what you have to do sometimes to move heaven and earth between, maybe there's multiple writers, multiple publishers. You're like 2% writer and publisher, it's missing. So tell us about, you know, was there
Well,
yeah,
there's a song that I really love. It's wait, I is it Olga Guillot? I think there's an Olga Guillot track. Wait, let me go look for it. I
sure.
don't remember the name. Well, you can check it there. I think there's one. That track, it's we're listening to it the first time Jonathan Pine goes to Teddy Dos Santos' house. So this is a song that I really love and an artist that I really love. And it was a track that was really complicated to clear at some point. So I'm really happy we ended up having it. It's not the sequence that I'm most proud of, because I'm really proud of the job, like overall. I really like it. I love the sequence of Hunting Bears. I think that one is really beautiful. I think the way it works, like, with the church and with the transition, I think it's very beautiful. I think Masters of War, like for the ending, I think it was a pretty cool, like a way to close and to kind of like prepare you for the next season, because there's going to be a next season.
Yeah.
But overall, of the soundtrack in general, this is one of the soundtracks that I'm really happy with the selection that we managed to work. And I'm extremely happy with the, hidden jewels that we managed to include, because yeah, I think there's like, there are pretty cool songs there.
Such a strong script, Paulina. And then the locations, you have Tom Hiddleston, you have Hugh Laurie, the cast, Olivia Colman, Diego Calva, Camila Moron. Such a star-studded cast. And the music, being what I always like to say as a sync agent myself, is, music becomes that third character in the storytelling, in the narrative. And what you did, Paulina, seamlessly, the music takes us and immerses us in this world. And it's sort of a tip of the hat with you know, the spy espionage a la of a 007, because it's Tom is acting. And of course, tell me more about the showrunner. Was this your first time working with a showrunner, or had you worked before with him?
No, this was the first time. What should I tell you? It was the
Secret.
first time. It was no, to be honest, I felt I had an amazing creative freedom, taking out like maybe 3 songs that were like pretty clear that they wanted them. Like 2 of them, they shot with them, but there are songs that I completely love and adore. So I was like super happy to be able to clear them.
Mhm, mhm.
So I think creatively there was a very good like understanding, which doesn't always necessarily happen. At the end of the day, there's always so many people involved. And funnily, in this project, having so many like co-producers and so many people involved, there were not that many people that were involved creatively. So it was actually pretty down to earth. There was this showrunner I used to work with a lot, and the director, and it was basically the 2 of them directing my work.
Mm,
Like I have, for example, I've had like a lot of series that I work in which I have to, deal with, I don't know, 7 people, 8 people. You have series in which you deal with four directors and then three showrunners and then the directors. And it's just like so many people that you have to consider, that you have to kind of like get into something together. And in this project, it was actually much more easier because they were not that many. They were just two. And because we had like a similar, I don't know, vibe or, the same kind of tastes, which is always not always necessarily the same also, no? That was easy. It was easy to work with them. Obviously, it was a big project with a lot of things happening simultaneously. So it had the challenges any big project has.
Yes.
But I think overall it went pretty well. And I think everyone was like super happy with the results. I remember when they had because obviously when you're working in a project of this dimension, you have the episodes and they have to be shown to different like platforms and they need to pass like a lot of approvals.
Yes.
And there were like pretty cool comments about the soundtrack and everybody seemed to be very happy. So that's always pretty nice.
Yeah, it really, I think, stands the test of time. And, I'll share the Spotify playlist.
Yeah, listen to it. It's so nice.
Yes. I mean, for driving, I'm here in Southern California and it's I mean, I think that's a testimony to your work and what you do in, you know, creating that sonic identity, but the music just takes you to, you know, a different time and place. But I wanted to share also your website because I know you're multifaceted, not only as a music supervisor, but on the edit soundtrack production. Would love to for a moment to talk about, because I know on IMDb, Paulina, you had produced some soundtracks early on in your career.
Long time ago, when we still bought CDs. My age is showing.
Oh, not
Yeah,
at
yeah,
all.
yeah. A long time ago, I used to produce the soundtracks. Yeah.
Wow, wow. And would you say, because like you said, it's a different skill set. Did that, I'm sure it prepared you in some facet of being a supervisor today?
Well, not actually,
Interesting.
because it kind of happened simultaneously, Like I started, so basically, I mean, it did. It was very different back then, like
Mm, mm.
producing soundtrack than actually doing the music supervision because when directors hired you to make the music supervision of their films, they kind of thought that releasing the soundtrack was kind of like part of the deal. But it was actually a completely separate negotiation. I mean, you had to know actually the amount of records that you were going to print, the amount of songs. You needed to know the cost. You needed to negotiate, it's a completely different thing. So
Yeah.
the first thing that I was asked to do it, obviously you say, yes, of course, we're going to do it. And then you're like, how do I do this? But obviously you had all these people that you knew in the labels and in publishers. So you go and you ask them and you make it work.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
remember I had a lot of, I don't remember if we took it out with EMI back then. El Cielo en tu, I don't remember, but I had a lot of, like counseling and
Yes. Yes.
guidance from people, yeah, like within the industry. I had a lot of help. I've always had a lot of help. And that's how I've learned because when I started doing music supervision and everything related to this back then, there was not really a place where you could actually learn how to do it, how to be one. You just learned by doing it. So, yeah, but I used to produce them a while ago, many years ago.
Yes, I think one of them was To the Other Side. You were soundtrack
Mhm.
producer. No, it's fascinating because you're taking me back, Paulina, because when I was at EMI Music, of course, there was EMI Latin and they had Selena.
Ay, I love Selena.
Yes, yes, such a great, yes, going and I think it just shows, with your role as a music supervisor, you have to be on the pulse, all the labels, all the publishers, music conferences, if we could spend a moment, because I know, correct, Paulina, I'm not sure, I saw it on online, you were on a panel. It was talking about the, films like Narcos and the Ibero-American visual media industry, and you were on a panel.
Ah, yeah, we were in that one in Primavera Sound, maybe. I don't remember. I think maybe yes. Yeah,
Yes.
well, I mean that started. I think there was a big boom related to music supervision, what it is, what does it imply, especially in Europe, because I know in the United States it's completely different. But in Europe, there were no actually many music supervisors some years ago. I mean, taking away maybe the UK and France. I remember when I started back in Mexico
Mhm.
20 years ago, there were like four. There was Lynn Feinstein, who was like the Yoda of the music supervisors in Mexico. And there were like three other music supervisors, and that was it. And when I arrived to Europe, so I moved to in Brussels. I lived in Brussels. There were not music supervisors. When I arrived to Spain, there were not many. And then the platforms arrive. And they
Yes.
start asking for the role of the music supervisor to be a part of the productions. And what happens that, I mean, I've worked with production companies that have never worked with a music supervisor here.
Mhm.
So there is a big thing now with teaching, showing, sharing, no? There's the ASM, la Asociación de Supervisión Musical de Habla Hispana, which is like, it was just formed, I think like last year or maybe a couple of years ago, which is like
Okay.
the Spanish speaking guild of music supervision. And from there, I started being invited to talk to all these, music festivals. I've been invited to Berkeley to
Mm.
kind of discuss what is happening, what does it imply, what is the landscape, in Mexico, in Spain, with the film production, with music clearances.
Mhm, mhm. Yes, I'm just pulling up your website because, you know, as you said, between film series, soundtracks, and then you're so active on the panels and workshops. You and I share that love. I teach a sync course, I produce and moderate panels, and it's such a labor of love, to shine a light on the craft of music supervision.
It's nice.
Yes, and so we share that, and I think, and what we've been doing with this podcast, because to your point, for many, many, many years, when I was at Capitol in the 90s, it was Karen Rackman working on all the she was a music supervisor at Capitol Records, and like you said, not many folks knew what music supervisors did. It was it was so, like you said, unless you learned from your peer. But now with the internet and YouTube and those things, it's yeah. What's I was curious because in Spain, are there um conferences
A
on the music?
lot.
Yes, yes. Tell me.
There are a lot of festivals. There are a lot of festivals. There are a lot of music conferences. There's a huge publishings. I don't remember the names of all of them because I have a very bad memory. But there's a huge publishing meetup. They actually invited me this year in Mallorca. It's amazing, and you have like all the main publishers from everywhere. And it's pretty cool because you actually you work with these people on a daily basis, like a lot. So it's pretty cool to be able to be there and to look at each other in the face and kind of like be able to pitch there what you're working on. You have a lot of music festivals, like Spain is a big country for music festivals. Each time more, like the organizers of these music festivals have these like professional, like this pro side to it, and they're always including more and more, like the music supervisors. There's also being established now a very interesting link between Spain and Latin America and all the Spanish speaking countries with the ASM.
Yes.
So yeah, there are a lot of pretty cool things there. Here, you should come.
Yes. No, I'm gonna have to do my research because, to your point, Paulina, I know South by Southwest, not only from Austin, but they now do South by Southwest in Australia. But that global footprint, I think, what I kind of like to thread is supervision. There could be supervisors here in the US, but thinking globally, like you said, what you've done over your career, fostering and really establishing relationships across the board and leading up to supervising the night manager. I mean, your body of work speaks for itself, but what do you see? I was curious because here in the US, we have our challenges with Hollywood's decentralized. You can film, you don't have to film in the US, you can film it in Europe and for lower cost. But what are you seeing, thanks to the streamers, Amazon, Hulu, Netflix? I'm sure a lot more opportunities for what you do being across the globe.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I mean, I don't know. I think my work, it's pretty, I don't know. It's pretty, I don't know what the word in English would be, but I'm trying to think about the word in Spanish actually.
Sure.
But it's pretty noble, you know? I need my ears. So I really have to take very good care of them because after you listen to a lot of music like all the time, you start feeling it. But I need my ears. I need to be able to, have a communication. I can do my work from anywhere. And I think there are me personally, for example, that I come from a country where there is a very big like film production right now. For example, in Mexico, there's just been a big incentive in film production. I come to live to another country where there's also a very big film production and where communication to other countries is very easy. So
Yes.
yeah, I think that's a pretty, I don't know. I think it's potentially something very that can be done, that can travel, that you can go and you can. I think the challenge of working as a music supervisor in other countries is the part of, when I arrived to my first project in Spain, where I actually got asked to propose songs that reach the unconscious, like collective unconscious of the Spanish people. I thought, well, I'm not Spanish. I'm Mexican. We have
Mm,
things in common. We have a lot of things in common, but I am
yeah.
essentially Mexican. It
Yeah.
really helps that I've been living here for a long time. And obviously, a part of it, an important part of it, it's the music search, which is the most beautiful part of it. But there's also a question of your memories. There's also a question of, the references, and that's something that takes time. That's
Mm,
something that takes time, that takes knowing the place, knowing the people,
right.
and getting it's not only a research of I go to my computer and I listen, is I live it, I interact,
Yeah.
I talk, so I think that would be like the big challenge for that.
Yeah, that's huge because every country, like you said, the nuances of, I know I work with Luis Calvo at Elephant Records in Spain. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, and there's so much and now here in the States, downtown music, you have all the publishers, all the majors acquiring independent administrators. So what will that do to frontline labels and independent artists? But just one sort of question as we wrap up our chat: is there any local independent artists in Spain right now that we should pay attention to?
So
That's
many.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
So many. No, no,
Yeah,
no. Spain is going through a super interesting, like, moment. I think there are amazing artists to listen to. I don't know, my brain now, there is Raúl Refre or Refri. I don't know how is it called. He's an amazing composer and also a producer. He did the original music for La Mesías de los Javis. It's an amazing series that just came out last year, maybe. But he's an amazing producer, and I swear everything that he does is incredible. There's also Bronchio, that I really, really like. It's pretty cool. Oh, yeah, I don't know. There are so many. But
sure,
yeah, I
sure.
think the Spanish scene right now, it's like insane. It's like pretty cool.
I think, yeah, that is from one music veteran to another what keeps us that love of finding new artists. And for what you do, helping independent artists, helping catalog artists or legacy artists give new life to their music and a production, and syncing it to picture. And I love what you said, Paulina, about opportunities for folks who are looking to break into supervision, but traveling to different countries and really getting to know the culture. And opportunities are everywhere. It's a matter of thinking locally, but then acting globally. And
Yeah.
music, I was at a conference and there's a music library in Japan that has, all this J-pop. And of course, we have K-pop Demon Hunters. And it's such a great time in the music industry
My
with,
God, we have them everywhere. My daughter is insane about them.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's such a great time. And before we wrap season, you said the night manager will return.
Yes, it
Yes.
will. I have no information whatsoever, but it will. I just read it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Exciting, exciting. No, we'll have to stay in touch because I think, all your work, when we post this episode, we'll share links so folks can find your website, the Spotify playlist. But thank you so much for taking the time out. And I really enjoyed our chat today.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Me too.
Thank you. Thank you. And look forward to, on the side note, do you ever attend I know you're a part of a member of the Eastern version, European version of the Guild of Music Supervisors. Do you ever
Yeah.
make it do you ever make it out to?
So the one in the United States?
Yeah.
Never.
Wow. Okay. One day.
Never, but there's always a first time for everything.
Yes, yes. This is true. This is true because, you know, you could cup you can well, when you attend that conference here in Los Angeles and then go to the Netflix studios, go to the Amazon studios, and all those meetings that can be done.
I will do
So
that someday.
yeah, it's we've our weather here, as you can imagine, in Los Angeles, a lot like Spain when it's not raining, but it's been warm lately.
I imagine. I was there many, many, many years ago, so I have to go back and refresh my
Yeah,
memory.
yes, yes, for sure. Thanks to hopping on a plane and before you know it, you arrive in Los Angeles. But thank you, Paulina. I hope you have a great week. Can't wait to share the episode. And thanks again.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Take care. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Tune in, like, subscribe, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Sync Riffs.
Go.